The previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the New York Yankees in the final and rubber game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today on the mound for the Yankees, left-hander Max Fried, and for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx at 4:05 p.m. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We check in with Tony Gwynn Jr. in just a few minutes from inside the Padres radio booth, plus our keys to the game, a full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup, and much, much more to come. But first, it's time to set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres entered today 23-12, a half game behind the LA Dodgers for first place in the National League West. Padres had a 6-game winning streak snap last night. They look for a second series win to begin this 9-game road trip, a day off tomorrow, and then a 3-game series to wrap up the trip begins on Friday in Denver. Meanwhile, the Yankees come in 20-16, still sitting in first place in the American League East. Yankees snapped a little 3-game skid with their win in yesterday's game in the Bronx. Speaking of last night's game, let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
We had a scoreless game going top 4. Padres loaded the bases. Jason Hayward at the plate. Yankees starter Clark Schmidt committed a bases-loaded balk. That scored Manny Machado from third base and moved up the other 2 base runners. Hayward then hit a sac fly to left. Jackson Merrill scored from third. Just like that, the Padres had a 2-0 lead after a balk and a sac fly. However, the Yankees answered in the bottom of the 4th inning with 1 out and nobody on. It was Aaron Judge against Michael King.
2-2 in the air to deep right field. Fernando is back. He is at the wall, leaps up, can't get it. A home run for Aaron Judge, his 12th of the year.
King then issued a walk to Cody Bellinger. Jason Dominguez was next.
Dominguez, hard hit right side. Great diving attempt by Wade, but into right field. Fernando comes up firing towards third, and it gets by Machado, goes into the camera well in the dugout, and that will tie the game as Bellinger will come home to score.
Both King and Schmidt went 6 innings. We were tied at 2, going top 7. Runners on first and second. 2 men away for Fernando Tatis Jr.
Tatis swings, lines it towards right center field. That's going to find the alleyway. That's going to get down and bounce. Cut off in the gap by Judge, but 1 run is scored as Sheets crosses the plate. It's an RBI double for Fernando Tatis Jr., and the Padres are back in front. It's 3-2.
Padres would load the bases for Manny Machado, but Manny struck out to keep it a 1-run game. Adrian Morejon entered in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Padres leading 3-2. Jason Dominguez hit a leadoff double. Anthony Volpe singled. Dominguez went to third base. That brought up Austin Wells.
Morejon delivers, and Wells swings, rips it into right field, a base hit. That'll tie the game. Dominguez on to score. Fernando fires into second base. An RBI single for Austin Wells. A 3-3 game and 3 straight Yankee hits to begin the bottom of the 7th.
That was just the start of the trouble. Yankees would load the bases with 1 out, top of the lineup, and Trent Grisham coming up. Padres went to Wandy Peralta. He issued a 4-pitch walk. That brought in the go-ahead run to make it 4-3 New York. Ben Rice was next.
Here's the 0-2 pitch, hit hard on the ground, up the right field line. That is a fair ball, going to cause trouble. Wells has scored. Goldschmidt is on his way. And into second with a 2-run double, Ben Rice. The Yanks lead is now 6-3.
Cody Bellinger hit an RBI single to make it 7-3. Anthony Volpe an RBI single to make it 8-3. The bases were still loaded for Austin Wells.
3-2, runners go, and it's launched in the air, deep down the right field side, gone, a grand slam. Austin Wells with an exclamation point in this bottom of the 7th inning. A 10-run inning, and the Yankee lead is 12-3.
Yankees sending 13 batters to the plate in that seventh inning, 10 runs, 7 hits in the seventh. They took a 12-3 lead. They would win by that final score, setting up the rubber game of this 3-game series. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:05 local time here in San Diego, let's go out to Yankee Stadium.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, let's start with a look at today's starting pitching matchup for the Padres right-hander Dylan Cease, for the Yankees left-hander Max Fried. We'll get to Fried in a second. For Dylan Cease, obviously it's been an up and down first month or so of the season so far. He said the right things, feels like he's starting to turn that corner. To you, Tony, and I've asked you this before, and I'll ask it again as we get ready to see Dylan here tonight. How does Dylan get into that real dominant version of Dylan Cease that we haven't quite seen so far yet this year?
I think quality strikes and having the sharpness of his slider back. And I thought that kind of revealed itself and showed himself to kind of get back to that in his last start. And so from there, it's about, because you go back, you look at the amount of strikes, percentage of strikes he's throwing, it's about the same as it was last year. I just think the difference is that he's missing in the middle of the plate right now, and teams are capitalizing. And when the slider wasn't as sharp early, it was an easier look for these hitters. And I think seeing him throw that slider with the sharpness his last outing, even though it didn't necessarily go the way I think we're still hoping it will, I thought that was a step in the right direction. To
take the conversation a step forward, obviously Dylan is very slider, four-seam fastball heavy. You look at some of the numbers, opposing hitters batting .300 against the four-seamer so far this season. How does, when the slider becomes sharper, how does that affect his usage of the four-seamer as well?
Well, I think he can't throw it in the zone as much when it's not as sharp. And therefore, hitters can start to kind of eliminate pitches, right? If he can't throw it in the zone because it's not as sharp, meaning he has to try to trick hitters into thinking it is a strike only for it not. Big league hitters are smart. They eventually will figure out he can't throw it for a strike, or he doesn't want to throw it for a strike. I can get on the heater a little bit more. When the slider is sharp and he's throwing it in the zone where he wants to, it's so hard to determine heater or fastball. But now you can pick up the spin, and all of a sudden you're not swinging at that slider that's off the plate or below the zone, and now you're honing in on the fastball, which all hitters ideally want to do.
Tony, on the other side of this pitching matchup for the Yankees, left-hander Max Fried, he's been terrific after signing a $200+ million deal with the Yankees in the winter, a 1.01 ERA through his first 7 starts. He's just been terrific so far in the pinstripes. What kind of challenge does Max Fried present for this Padres lineup here today?
Well, Max Fried is throwing the ball as well as I think he ever has at the big league level. He's a guy that, remember, he's a free agent, and unlike Devin Williams, he had a say in where he went.
Yeah.
And the fact that he chose to come here, I think, kind of highlights the type of individual you're dealing with here. And he has flourished here early in the early going. I think Max Fried is always a difficult matchup. But I think the Padres have had some success off of him as of the last couple of starts. And even when it hasn't looked like it did in the playoff game, they've made him work and been able to get him out of games, even though he might have thrown the baseball well. And I expect that to be the same thing here tonight. The Padres, I think you can go into this type of start not expecting a ton of runs, but that does not mean that the Padres won't make it tough on Max Fried, and I fully expect that they will.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that history with Max Fried. Of course, as you alluded to, Padres saw him in the National League Wild Card Series last year. Quickly, Tony, to touch on Jackson Merrill, re-enters the lineup yesterday for the first time in a month, goes 2 for 4, double runs scored. I mean, it was pretty impressive to see Jackson really pick up right from where he left off before the injury.
Yeah, and, at this point, I don't know that you could say it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Jackson has just seemingly hit the ground running in every single situation he's been presented with. And so last night was no different. It was just nice to see him back out, playing, running the bases, no seemingly like tells that he's still dealing with it. I think he might be a little rusty in the outfield in terms of taking charge, but that'll come. First game back, it's just nice to have his name in the lineup, and you can see the depth that it adds.
Tony, good insight as always. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 3:55 here in San Diego. Final question for you. How's the weather? I'm hearing good things.
I mean, it's gray, but it's not raining. So,
Okay.
there's that. It looks like we no tarp. The tarp is covered up. So
Okay.
that is an indication that they don't expect rain, at least as of right now. And things are looking good.
All right, Tony. As always, thanks so much. Appreciate the time.
No problem, Sam.
All right, Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 4:05 in New York City for the final and rubber game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Yankees. A really good starting pitching matchup. Left-hander Max Fried on the mound for the Yankees. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for San Diego. Fried has been really, really good. We'll have plenty more to say about Max Fried. And when we come back, we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Plus, coming up a little bit later, some injury updates. An important Padre, is on the precipice of returning, it certainly sounds like. And a right-hander is making significant steps right now in Arizona at the Padres complex. So we'll get into all that when we return. Again, first pitch at 4:05 in New York. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 4:05 local time here in San Diego for the rubber game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the New York Yankees. Padres with a great comeback win on Monday night Tough seventh inning yesterday. Yankees going on to win it 12-3, and now they send right-hander Dylan Cease to the mound here today against left-hander Max Fried on the mound for the Yankees. A really good starting pitching matchup tonight at Yankee Stadium. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can get involved by finding me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. And as always, we ask you a very simple question. What is your key to today's game? May read your key to the game coming up a little bit later on. As we get ready for this one, let's go back to the Bronx and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Looking forward to seeing Dylan out there.
Yeah, man, we're looking forward to Dylan pitching. Always look forward to it. I know he's excited. We're excited, and it's going to be a good game.
It seems like he's getting closer to being the dominant type of Dylan that we've seen in the past. I mean, he's been good, but a step closer to being that dominant guy.
Yeah, I think he's getting closer. I think he's shown the ability to do that over the course of the season, and we have high expectations for Dylan. And I don't think sometimes when it doesn't go as well, we go, oh my gosh, we don't appreciate when it does go well. And it's gone well a fair amount of the time, and excited to see him watching pitch tonight. And the fastball has been explosive, slider's getting better, so it should be a good night.
You got a good competitor on the other side as well, Max Fried. Does it help at all that you guys have some success against him in the postseason, possibly?
We've had some experiences against Max. He's clearly one of the better pitchers in baseball. He's throwing the ball extremely well to start the season, to no real surprise to anyone. I think past experiences are beneficial in almost anything, and we know he's going to bring his A game, but we've also had some good experiences against him.
It's been a nice little theme the last week or so, getting guys back. Luis is back, Jackson back, Brandon's back, now Sean Reynolds back as well. How much does that help? Just having that added depth and another big power arm in your bullpen.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, listen, Jackson getting back last night, picked up right where he left off. I mean, doubled on the line, takes what the game gives him, base hit the other way, good decisions on the bases. So nice to have Jackson back. Sean, as a part of our club last year, contributed, had a setback in spring training with his foot, and worked really hard with the medical staff and did a great job with him to get back, and now he's ready to compete for us.
What did you see from Berger coming down and working out of the pen?
I thought Berger was outstanding. It's hard to break into the big leagues. It's a challenge to break into the big leagues in a different role. It's the guy historically who started, comes in, pitches out of the bullpen, so now not sure of when he's going to pitch. And then how to get ready for a game, and has been able to – he threw the ball really well. Pitched in, games were up 5-0 and gets the ninth inning and no drama to it. Able to go back-to-back yesterday, able to get his first big league win. We sat down with him today, really pleased for him, happy about how he's, progressed, how he accepted that role. The move today was a combination of Sean's healthy and able to get back, but also in concert with, we feel like we were fresh on arms today. So when we had this need to get the arm, we always take the fresh arm. But really the big picture move for Bergie was getting him going back and built up as a starter again. We have some reliever depth that we can trust, but also continue to get more starter depth if we need it.
What does that process look like for him? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Ruben and with Scott Mitchell, who does a great job as our AAA pitching coach in El Paso. Great relationship. They'll communicate. Back-to-back days. Whether it's Saturday or Sunday, probably a lean towards Sunday where he starts, and then there's a modification of, what inexactness of he started, had this many pitches. He's gone away from it. What makes sense? We'll clearly err on the side of caution. So, it'll be back to the, 50 pitch mark type thing and building back up to 80, 90 pitches.
What do you think Ruben does so well? I had a conversation with Jason Adam, and obviously comes from Tampa to here, like Kyle Snyder, his staff, very similar.
Yep.
He said, what do you think he does so well?
I think there's a lot of things. First of all, I said this last year. It's a longer answer your question, but it's worth the explanation. When I took over this position last year and you look at the team in total and you looked at where we were, the strongest part of that nucleus of how we're going to compete, pitching, hitting, defense, base running, etc., was our pitching department. And I got to see that being an organization in a different role from the first year Ruben was here, and clearly didn't get in the weeds, watched it peripherally, but just got an opportunity to see the synergy that started to be that Ruben led, that was built with our R&D department, our medical department, our player development department, coupled with Ben Fritz, our bullpen coach, and who does a tremendous job. I'm sure Jason may have, said some positive things about as well. And then Peter Somerville, who our game planning coach. I saw Ruben put together a very, very talented group and organize it. But one of the final things that I think is at the top of the list that what Ruben does well is there's a partnership with our player. And I believe in that sincerely. Pitching, hitting, defense, all of it. We get players now that have gotten to a big league level, especially guys like Jason that have been here and had success and rightfully know who they are. It's important that their voice is heard and what's taking place. So there's a real partnership with the player and a real clarity that says, okay, this is what I'd like to work on. It's what I've had success with. And then Ruben, coupled with his experience and his group's thoughts, can also share, well, we see it also this way. Well, let's try this. And there's an open-mindedness from everybody that lands to a sweet spot of how it is you best compete with your arsenal and the clarity of that.
Hey, Mike, what are your impressions of the start that the Judges went to this year? What's the most challenging part of what you're facing right now?
You know what? What a talent, man. I mean, oh my gosh. It's one of these, and I'll admit it with all vulnerability, my job is to stay, which I do, on point with managing the game and seeing the game. But I got to tell you, there's sometimes you want to just step back and be like, I just want to check this guy out. I just want to see this talent. And the talent's really there. And, our job is to stop the other team. And, you look for ways to do that, and we're good at it. What I mentioned with Ruben earlier, it's a strength of the club is how do we compete against the other team and figure out how to beat them, get them out, score on them, the free question. But he's a guy you seriously got a game plan. He's clearly a presence in that lineup, and it's a real talent that the leagues and the Yankees are very fortunate to have. And we're going to do our best to figure out a way to get him out tonight and maybe see him later in the season.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today inside the Padres dugout at Yankee Stadium. We'll hear more from Mike on our postgame coverage coming up a little bit later on this evening. Should have said this before we heard from Mike Shildt, but I'll sort of recap it now. Mike alluded to it during the pregame media availability. Padres did make a move before today's game, reinstating right-hander Sean Reynolds from the IL. Reynolds had a stress reaction in his right foot going back to spring training, so he's finally back here in early May. Padres made a corresponding move. They optioned right-hander Ryan Bergert to AAA El Paso. Bergert did a nice job in the bullpen, 4 scoreless innings in 4 appearances out of the pen. So very nice job by Ryan Bergert. And you heard there, part of the reasoning why Bergert is the guy to go down is because the Padres want him to go back down to the minor leagues and re-stretch out again. They want him to be a starting pitcher and be an option as far as starting pitching depth in the organization. But you got to give him credit. Came up to the major leagues and did a real nice job out of the bullpen. Reynolds, of course, made his major league debut with the Padres last season. He went scoreless in 8 of his 9 appearances, a 0.82 ERA in 11 innings against major league opponents last year. Reynolds was really good, throws hard, really good stuff. He should be a very valuable piece in that Padres bullpen moving forward. Again, first pitch coming up at 4:05 at Yankee Stadium. Rubber game of this 3-game set between the Padres and the Yanks. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We take a look at the hot category. Manny Machado in that category. He's in the midst of a 7-game hitting streak, hitting .407 in that span with 3 extra base hits and 5 RBIs. Manny has been really good in his last 17 games against the Yankees. .359 batting average in those 17, .734 slugging percentage, 12 extra base hits, including 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 12 runs scored. However, Manny is just 2 for 18 in his career against tonight's starting pitcher for the Yankees, Max Fried, but 1 hit is a home run. The other was a double. So keep an eye on that matchup. Manny against Max Fried in this one here tonight. The not category, Jose Iglesias is 0 for his last 14 against the lefty Fried. Iglesias is in the lineup today for the Padres, playing second base and batting 8th. And that is a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for this series finale. Quick look at the Padres lineup in its entirety. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off. Luis Ariz at first base batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Jackson Merrill back in the lineup for a second consecutive day, playing center field batting cleanup. Xander Bogaerts in the 5 spot playing shortstop. Gavin Sheets batting 6th. The DH, Oscar Gonzalez in left field batting 7th. Jose Iglesias at second base batting 8th. And Martin Maldonado behind the plate and batting 9th with right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound. Let's take you around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
We take a look at some headlines from around the major leagues. Let's talk about a few different injury items today. Astros slugger Yordan Alvarez has a strained muscle at the top of his right hand, a diagnosis that has the Astros optimistic he won't have a particularly long stay on the IL. The 3-time All-Star went on the IL yesterday, returned to Houston for an MRI that revealed that muscle strain on top of his right hand. Brewers catcher William Contreras will continue to play despite a fractured finger on his catching hand that had grown so painful the club had to go get an x-ray on it. The test confirmed the existence of a fracture on his left middle finger, but it's believed to be an old injury that dates to last season. And remember, Contreras last season was great. He played in 155 games, caught in 120 of them. He won a Silver Slugger Award. He finished 5th in NL MVP Award balloting. He's told the club he wants to play through the pain rather than missing time. So William Contreras sounds like he will continue to play with a fractured finger on his left hand. More injury news. The Cubs will be cautious with left-hander Shota Imanaga while the left-hander recovers from his first hamstring injury. He was put on the 15-day IL on Monday because of a mild strained left hamstring. He is planning to keep his arm loose by playing catch while he gives that leg time to recover. Speaking of the Cubs, they lost today to the Giants. Robbie Ray, really, really nice outing. 6 innings, 1 run given up for the Giants as the Giants improved to 24-14 with the win. So San Francisco continues to play well. Cubs lose today at Wrigley, and we'll have more on the out-of-town scoreboard coming up in our next segment. And that's a full look at some headlines from around the major leagues. When we come back, we have our injury report. We give you the latest update on Jake Cronenworth, on Yu Darvish, plus our keys to the game and much, much more to come. First pitch at 4:05 in the Bronx. You're listening to the Padres Radio Network.
Tony Gwynn Jr. here. The baseball season is upon us, which means long days.
Pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in under 20 minutes. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. First pitch at 4:05 local time here in San Diego as the Padres go for a series win in New York. Believe it or not, the Padres have never won a series at Yankee Stadium. They have lost all 4 series they have played in the Bronx. So the Padres an opportunity to bounce back here today after a disappointing 12-3 defeat last night and an opportunity to win a series at Yankee Stadium for the first time in franchise history. So a lot on the line today at Yankee Stadium with right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres, left-hander Max Fried on the mound for the Yankees, and we'll have much more on that pitching matchup coming up in just a little bit. Let's give you the latest on Jake Cronenworth and Yu Darvish.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
First, let's start with the update on Jake Cronenworth. He played for AAA El Paso last night and earlier today. Last night, he played second base offensively. He hit a home run, walked 3 times, and scored 3 runs. Today, he DH'd. He had a single, a walk, and 2 runs scored. As far as Yu Darvish, he threw a bullpen yesterday at the team's complex in Arizona. He is scheduled to face hitters tomorrow in Arizona. Let's hear what Mike Shildt had to say about both Jake Cronenworth, but first on Yu Darvish.
It's a substantial step. He threw yesterday, bullpen, and scheduled for tomorrow in Arizona. And yeah, it's a big step. It's an organized up and down with hitters, and it's a good thing for you, and it's a great thing for us.
Cronenworth getting close.
Cronenworth's really close. He got through today. They had a day game with El Paso, DH. So if you want to come over to Colorado, you may see him there.
So anticipate activating him Friday?
I think that's where we're trending, yes.
All right, so the Padres sounding like they are very, very close to getting back to full strength, especially offensively. Jake Cronenworth, it sounds like, good chance he is activated on Friday before the Padres game against the Colorado Rockies in Denver. So good news all the way around. Yu Darvish, again, like we said, he will face hitters tomorrow in Arizona. And that's the latest on Yu Darvish and Jake Cronenworth. Also sounds like Cronenworth has been wearing some type of protection around that area where he fractured his ribs. So it'll be interesting to see if Jake is wearing something when he comes back, but he will be, sounds like, probably good enough to go on Friday, and that would put the Padres at pretty much full strength back in their lineup offensively. And when Yu Darvish comes back, that would be a great thing for the Padres as well, certainly. First pitch coming up at 4:05. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, be fierce against Fried. Max Fried faces the Padres for the first time since losing Game 2 of last October's Wild Card Series, ending the Braves season, and it was Fried's last appearance during his time as an Atlanta Brave. He then went on to sign an 8-year, $218 million deal with the Yankees this past winter. Fried was originally the 7th overall pick of the Padres in 2012. He was traded to Atlanta in the 6-player deal that sent Justin Upton to San Diego back in December of 2014. Fried is 3-2 with a 3.51 ERA and 6 career starts against the Padres, including the postseason. We'll have a full breakdown of Fried in our next segment, but just know this. He has an American League best 1.01 ERA this season. No doubt about it. He's going to be a very tough customer for the Padres offense here tonight. One matchup to watch against Fried, Luis Arraez, 6 for 10 in his career against Fried. Key number 2, Dylan dealin' with the judge. Get it? Dylan dealin' with the judge. I'm talking about Aaron Judge. I'm talking about Dylan Cease. Aaron Judge hit a solo home run in yesterday's game. Only a homer in Yankee Stadium and 2 other ballparks in the major leagues, but hey, that's neither here nor there. Judge, during his 32-game on-base streak, he's batting .413, .503 on-base percentage, .702 slugging percentage, 17 extra base hits, including 8 home runs, 23 RBIs, 26 runs scored. Look, we get it. You heard Mike Shildt talk about it before the game. Aaron Judge is one of the great talents in our game. Padres did a good job against him on Monday. Did give up a home run against him on Tuesday. Judge, when you talk about the matchup with Cease, and this is really what you got to focus on, he is 4 for 10 with 3 extra base hits, including a home run in his career against Dylan Cease. So those 2-3 times that Cease faces Judge, see how that matchup goes. Dylan dealing with the Judge. Key number 2. Key number 3, more Merrill. Jackson Merrill went 2 for 4 yesterday, a double, a run scored in his return from the IL. Merrill now in 11 games this season, batting .390, a .422 on base percentage, a .683 slugging percentage, 6 extra base hits, 3 home runs, and 10 RBIs. Padres need Merrill to be very good in that cleanup spot. Certainly think he can be, and that's key number 3. That's a look at our keys to today's game. Again, we'll have a deeper dive into today's starting pitching matchup coming up a little bit later. We'll also talk about the Padres bullpen. It was a rare off night for the bullpen yesterday. But first, let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We do have a number of finals already today. Mets beat the Diamondbacks a little while ago, 7-1 in Arizona. Juan Soto hit 2 home runs in that game for the Mets. Mariners beat the A's 6-5 in Sacramento earlier today. Giants beat the Cubs at Wrigley Field at 3-1. Like we said, Robbie Ray very good in that game. 6 innings, 1 run allowed for the win. Cardinals blanked the Pirates 5-0 in St. Louis. The Astros beat the Brewers 9-1 in Milwaukee. Jeremy Pena, a home run in that game for the Astros. Guardians beat the Nationals 8-6 in D.C. Carlos Santana, a big 3-run double in that game for the Guards. One game going on right now. Dodgers ahead of the Marlins 3-0 in Miami in the 7th inning. Everything else coming up a little bit later on. Rangers and the Red Sox at 3:45 at Fenway Park in Boston. Phillies and the Rays in Tampa Bay at 4:05. Good pitching matchup there. Christopher Sanchez on the mound for Philadelphia. Shane Baz on the mound for Tampa Bay. Reds and the Braves in Atlanta at 4:15. Hunter Green on the mound today for Cincinnati. Orioles and the Twins in Minnesota at 4:40. White Sox and the Royals in Kansas City at 4:40. Michael Wacha on the mound for Kansas City today. Tigers and the Rockies at 5:40 in Colorado. Blue Jays and the Angels at 6:38 in Anaheim. And that's a look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Wednesday across the major leagues. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we talk a little bit more about the Padres bullpen, what they need to do today to bounce back after a very rare rough day for the bullpen yesterday. Plus, we take a much deeper dive into today's starting pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Max Fried. Again, first pitch coming up at 4:05 in New York City. If you want to get involved in our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can find me on X or Instagram at SammyLev, SammyLev, or you can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream. I want to know, what is your key to today's game? Let me know, and I may just read your answer when we come back. First pitch coming up in just a little bit between the Padres and the Yankees in the Bronx. You're listening to the Padres Radio Network. Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for today's game coming up at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. First pitch at 4:05 would go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in under 10 minutes. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres today. Left-hander Max Fried on the mound for New York. Fried has been very, very good so far this year. We'll have a full breakdown of that starting pitching matchup coming up in just a little bit. Like we said earlier, Padres still searching for their first series win in the Bronx. Their all-time 0-4 in series at Yankee Stadium. So feels like today is as good a day as any to pick up that first ever series win at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. As always, we invite you to get involved on social media. Let us know what is your key to today's game. Rod on YouTube saying, key to the game, get our boys to start with some explosive bats and bring some early runs on the board, steal more bases. Bullpen will need to dust off yesterday and leave New York with a win. And we'll talk more about the bullpen, Rod, here in a second. Johnny on Instagram writing in saying the key to today's game, Dylan Cease putting together a good performance. That's a great point. We'll see if Dylan can find that real dominant version of himself here today against the Yankees. And Gonzo on YouTube saying, key to the game, if your cat has a Padre jersey, they better be rocking it. Do cats have jerseys? Is putting like sweaters on cats, is that a thing? I never had a pet. Now, people don't really put clothes on cats, right? I would feel like a cat wouldn't really like that. I know dogs, you'll have a shirt or a jersey or a little jacket if it's cold. I don't know what Gonzo's talking about, but yeah, you know what? How about this? If you have a dog, why don't you put the Padre jersey or shirt, whatever you have on him? Maybe that'll give the Padres a little bit of good luck today. Let's tell you what to watch for in the Bronx today.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For, presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? Can the Padres bullpen bounce back? Entering last night, the Padres bullpen had a major league low 1.68 ERA and 181 opponent batting average. The Padres had not given up any of the 22 leads it had inherited in the seventh inning or later before last night. Last night was so rare. The mix of Adrian Morejon and Wandy Peralta gave up 10 runs on 7 hits. So again, we're focusing on two guys who just didn't really have it yesterday. Can the bullpen bounce back today? Return to form? That's what to watch for in today's game. Hopefully yesterday just a one-off, not a sign of things to come. Like we've been saying, great starting pitching matchup between Max Fried and Dylan Cease. Let's dive in.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Left-hander Max Fried on the mound for the Yankees today, 31 years old. He signed an 8-year, $218 million deal with New York this past winter after beginning his career with the Atlanta Braves. He has been terrific so far in pinstripes. 6-0, 1.01 ERA, 7 starts, 44 innings and 2/3, 39 strikeouts, and 11 walks. The 1.01 ERA is the lowest in the American League and second lowest in the majors. Fried has not allowed an earned run in his last 24 innings and a third. He went 7 scoreless innings with just 1 hit allowed in his last start on Friday against the Rays. Remember, the Padres faced Max Fried back in the NL Wildcard Series last October. They tattooed him. He gave up 5 earned runs on 8 hits in just 2 innings in that game. Gave up an extra base hit to Manny Machado, another to Jackson Merrill. Also gave up a home run to Kyle Higashioka in that game as well. Fried has a deep arsenal. 4-seam fastball, sinker, curve, sweeper, changeup, and a cutter. He uses that 4-seamer nearly 40% of the time. Opposing hitters are batting just 139 against that 4-seam fastball so far this season. So how the Padres do against that 4-seamer today, a big thing to watch as Max Fried takes the mound. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. The 29-year-old has had an up-and-down season so far. 1-2, a 5.61 ERA in 7 starts, 33 2/3 innings, 39 strikeouts, and 15 walks. His last start against the Pirates, Cease went just 4 innings through 91 pitches, gave up 2 earned runs, walked 3, and struck out 3. Start prior against the Rays, he again threw a ton of pitches, 95 in just 4 innings and a third, allowed 2 earned runs and walked 4. Cease has not been great against the Yankees in his career, a 6.39 ERA in 5 career starts against New York. He faced them last season as a member of the Padres in San Diego, pitched 6 2/3 innings, gave up 4 earned runs on 8 hits. He did strike out 9, but he gave up a home run and a double to Aaron Judge in that game. So keep an eye on that matchup today. Judge against Cease, like we alluded to earlier. The pitch mix for Dylan Cease, he throws the slider a lot, 47%, four-seam fastball at 36%. Also will mix in the knuckle curve and the changeup. And keep an eye on that four-seam fastball. Opposing hitters are batting .300 against it so far this season. That's a look at a good starting pitching matchup in this series finale. Max Fried for the Yankees and Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Let's touch on a couple of items before we send things out to Jesse and Tony. Manny Machado in the midst of a 7-game hitting streak, hitting .407 in that span with 3 extra base hits and 5 RBIs. Manny, 2 for 18 in his career against Max Fried, who we just discussed. 1 hit, though, a home run, and the other a double. By the way, Manny in his last 17 games against the Yankees, hitting .359 with 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 12 runs scored. So we'll see if Manny can keep the good times rolling against the Yankees here today. Padres enter today's game 23-12. They, of course, had a 6-game winning streak snap last night. They look for a second series win to begin this 9-game road trip. Padres have an off day tomorrow, then a 3-game series beginning in Denver on Friday. Yankees at 20-16, sitting in first place in the American League East. The Yankees snapped a little 3-game skid with that win yesterday. And again, Padres still have a chance today to do something they have never done. That is win a series at Yankee Stadium. Is today the day? Well, we're going to find out. When we come back, Jesse Ackler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game.